Escherichia coli, also known as E. coli. This will be the case study that we're focusing on. The background of E. coli, or Escherichia coli, was first developed by German pediatrician Theodor Eschrich in 1885. One of the first outbreaks where the U.S. became known of the strain 00157H7 was an outbreak in Oregon and Michigan in a McDonald's due to undercooked meat. Symptoms of the patients included bloody stool, diarrhea, and serious abdominal pain. During that outbreak, 2 to 7 patients were known to develop HUS, which is hemolytic uremic syndrome, where part of the E. coli enters the cell linings and intestines, causing bleeding, and can lead to death in vulnerable patients such as children and the elderly. 35 people prior to the Seattle outbreak, which we will be focusing on, have died, and 22 outbreaks occurred throughout the United States. In 1993, the Seattle outbreak killed 4 children and made 700 sick. Feedlots are a big issue. When cattle consume corn, they create an acid in their stomachs, which E. coli have developed the ability to survive in. So feedlots that use corn are highly susceptible to E. coli contamination, which is the majority of feedlots in the U.S. And undercooked meat is a major contributor as well. Jack in the Box hired Dave Steno after this event, a food and safety expert, to improve their food prep standards. And in 1996, the HACCP was introduced, essentially a hazard analytics control point spectrum by the CDC that required microbial testing for all harmful bacteria that came out of slaughterhouses. Consumption since then has been down. This is an official USDA graph. Beef consumption is on its way down. Chicken is up. To finalize, food and safety inspections do work. Once the CDC was able to implement HACCP as well as PlusNet systems over the last decade, this has included public health labs across the country and can run up to 22 states for any particular strain to find similar and, quicker recognition of outbreak. Big beef tends to play a role in delaying these inspections. However, President Obama did request $955 million during his term to aid in these efforts to expand PlusNet systems. $750 million was given to him. And meat suppliers overuse antibiotics for animal growth, which has been linked to creating infectious strains that are, hard to treat. Alternatives: James Russell of Cornell University suggested putting cows on a grass diet a few days before slaughter, which decreases E. coli count up to 80%. Again, Big Beef fights against that and actually evidently pushed, after the Seattle outbreak, they pushed implementation of HACCP back about 2 years by lobbying with House of Reps. Another study developed by some more Cornell researchers for gamma radiation to irradiate E. coli from this test was done on tahini, the food tahini, but on the seeds in tahini. And they were able to see less exposure of E. coli in these dishes. Recommendations then would be the government needs to be aware of lobbying behind big beef, especially when one single producer is the largest producer now, Tyson, of poultry and beef, to be leery of monopolies, as well as include the public and educate them and be a part of that process. They need to know when there's an outbreak happening and how politicians and regulators are going about that. Action plan: implement a strict system for food prep standards. That can be done over 3 to 5 years across the United States at major chains and then for smaller establishments, similar to David Steno. Expand HACCP testing to include all 50 states at one time, just a holistic snapshot, and advocate campaigns to recognize what big beef really is all about. Finally, when dealing with these harmful strains, all levels of food production need to be held responsible, from the restaurants to the meat supplier to the regulators who either implement new standards or don't. Every level needs to be held responsible. microbial testing does work, and delays should be illegal. They shouldn't delay health benefits for people. If there's an E. coli outbreak or epidemic, the delay by big beef should be illegal, and reduce the over prescription of antibiotics, perhaps in the body, to then prep people for when things do happen. We can treat the public in a necessary fashion. The end.